We must admit, we really didn't see this one coming. Again, an indie title that hit the nail on the head. We had just finished playing through Bastion for the second time when we heard the news that the champion of iOS games was now available on Steam. The game is a collaboration between art and concept designer Superbrothers, Toronto-based indie developer Capybara Games, and musician-composer Jim Guthrie. Canadian! What culminated of the mashup was an old-school point-and-click adventure, combat influenced by Punch-Out, if you can believe that, all wrapped in an intimate audio-visual journey of discovery. The graphical presentation of SNS initially reeks of cheesy retro pixels, and those rocking a hardcore spec PC will probably wonder why they would waste several kilowatt hours of energy on their machine for a game that doesn't run DirectX 11. But as soon as you begin your journey in this quirky little pixelated world of beasts, magic, and music, it all makes sense. You are a Scythian, a female shaman warrior armed with sword and shield with the ability to evoke Sworcery to solve this world's mystical musical mysteries. To reveal any more of the plot would be distracting from the game's intention of discovery, so we'll say no more about the Scythian and her woeful errand. Once again, the pixels do take some time to get used to on a big desktop monitor, but that's the whole style of the game. The longer you spend in the game, the more you begin to notice the subtleties of this artful environment. Points of interest may or may not be obvious, but they are not highlighted and definitely do not sparkle. Finding these points of interest is only half the battle. Next, you must figure out how to interact with them. There's no simple F key or blue X button to press. Progressing in this game is about thinking outside of the realm of traditional player interaction. Tap, swipe, and drag your mouse cursor until you see a hint of change. It may sound dull, but when you make the discovery, you'll be laughing your ass off, particularly in disbelief at the genius of it all. The aforementioned combat system is indeed reminiscent of the static interface of the 80s boxing classic Punch-Out, with clickable images for block and strike. While the small fry battles may seem tedious after a while, there is plenty of precision needed for the bigger fights. We weren't the biggest fan of using a touchscreen interface with the mouse here, but after a few bouts, we had the combat system dialed. The music is awesome. Jim Guthrie's experimental soundtrack will run away with your imagination. The original design concept was for a video game record project, basically an interactive album with a point-and-click adventure woven in. The archetype, a suit-wearing, cigar-smoking soothsayer, if you will, is in charge of giving you direction throughout the game and will continuously point you to the Megatome, the book of tricks that the Scythian carries with her that reveal clues. Be ready for some of the most cryptic, sarcastic, and sometimes just plain useless information, but to point to a yellow brick road would, again, detract from the alluring element of discovery here, so you just have to relax and go with it. The downside is that the game can really only be experienced once. Every time after, you just be going through the motions, but we believe that this was always the intention of the creators. We certainly got our 8 hours worth of play out of this game. The scripted dialogue is a mix of offbeat humor and the aforementioned sarcasm and will definitely amuse, as will the poetic prose of the narrative text. One of the gameplay functions inherited from the Touchtronic devices is the ability to post the passages of the script on your Twitter account, which might sound a bit silly, but when you reach one of the game's milestones, we guarantee you'll want to shout these passages from the mountaintops. Superbrothers Sword and Sworcery EP will gently guide you along an audio-visual journey that you have never experienced. The creators like to call it a brave experiment in I/O cinema, and a prog rock concept record you can hang out in. The Steam version even gives you a free digital copy of Jim Guthrie's soundtrack. So now is the time to believe, folks. Don't miss this little piece of video game adventure history.